trippy, man.
Turn a nigga house to a cemetery. Leave him dead in the dirt, nice ass bird. While he in his front yard, that's gonna be his grave. Say goodbye to the hater, everybody wave. Turn a nigga house to a cemetery. Leave him dead in the dirt, nice ass bird. While he in his front yard, that's gonna be his grave. Say goodbye to the hater, everybody wait. Everybody wait, everybody wait. Say goodbye to the hater, everybody wait. Everybody wait, everybody wait. Say goodbye to the hater, everybody wait. I won't let a nigga play with me, like a stingy nigga. Leave your body full of dirt, you dingy nigga. Kill a nigga right there in his front yard. Body parts all over like a junkyard. Bread on his head, all I do is say win. My guys see you in the club, beat your brains in. Hope that boy got his jewelry on, they take in. And they reaching in your pockets for them Franklins. Got so many straps, I could be a gun broker. Cutting snakes in the grass like a lawnmower. 100 round drums, turn his body into a puzzle. Put that gun to your face, dog, like a muzzle. Turn a nigga house to a cemetery. Leave him dead in the dirt, nice ass bird. While he in his front yard, that's gonna be his grave. Say goodbye to the hater, everybody wait. Everybody wait, everybody wait. Say goodbye to the hater, everybody wait. Everybody wait, everybody wait. Say goodbye to the hater, everybody wait. The ones that hate, no ones who broke, who ain't got no hustle. I got the magnums for you pussies, I ain't talking rubber. So play games if you want, watch me in your credit. Got beef, leave your shirt, bloody red like spaghetti. Never bought a gun for display, don't play, I'ma shoot. AKSK, turn them to alphabet soup. I keep them slugs, I'm not a coaster, so fuck your mug. Got niggas out here shooting shit up, I ain't talking drugs. Bullets with a dirty nigga, call that making mud. Roll up on them, put the flame to them, call that smoking buzz. Ain't shit change, I still lock him in the trunk. 45 cal, leave his ass dead drunk. Turn a nigga house to a cemetery. Leave him dead in the dirt, nice ass bird. While he in his front yard, that's gonna be his grave. Say goodbye to the hater, everybody wait. Everybody wait, everybody wait. Say goodbye to the hater, everybody wait. Everybody wait, everybody wait. Say goodbye to the hater, everybody wait.
My business is literally running circles around
We're going back to the old school. So we back at it. We doing an early morning stream. I like these early morning streams because my thoughts are clear. I have a theory that when I'm up in the early morning, I have much clearer thoughts because there is less mental traffic in the airwaves. You know, just like how if you're in a large crowd, you're in a parade or you're some sort of large gathering, you don't have very good cell reception. You know, I believe our thoughts are on these same wavelengths. It's a natural form, the natural version of these you know, Wi-Fi, if you will, or reception, right? Cell reception. This is the original cell reception is our mind. So depending on where you live, your time zone, if you're up early morning, you may experience much clearer thoughts. I don't know. You tell me if it works. I'm quite convinced. Anyway, so we're going to get right into it. Have a great show planned here. We are going to look at Europe, a deceptive people. What's up with the Europeans, the descendants of Europe, the descendants of European people, the original Europeans? And I'm going to look at some crazy drama controversy that's been going on these past couple weeks. Collargate, Free Kaya, hashtag Free Kaya, which of course refers to live streamer Hasan Piker, who, hey, if this were a court of law and there were juries looking at this, he shocked the dog. I'm going to say that. If this was a court of law, the evidence is outstanding at this point. Anyone else who's saying otherwise is clearly has ulterior motives or in some way is financially inclined to come to those conclusions. But we're going to look at this Collargate, and I'm going to link it into this very interesting topic. Looking at this historical account of the Europeans, right? Why are they like this? Why are they seemingly so deceptive? And is this all Europeans? Is this all white people? Absolutely not. Of course, I grew up with a lot of Caucasians, and they were very good, right? I have a lot of acquaintances that I've made over the years. Most of these people were very good people, right? So this is not a blanket statement whatsoever. I do believe that everyone has the capacity to change their conditioning. So this is not in any way a blanket statement against all Caucasians or all white people, but we'll just look at the facts. This is not you know, to put down anyone, because a lot of these, you know, white supremacists or these right alt-right people now, these Christian nationalist type people, they like to put forth these ideas of evolutionary psychology and talking about how blacks have inherent traits of doing X, Y, and Z. Now, this is just to put down other people, right? It comes from xenophobia. These are xenophobic thoughts where they want to put down other people, because most of the time the individuals who are engaging in this type of behavior and promoting these types of ideas are inferior people. So in order for them to feel some sort of superiority, they have to put down others. So this is not the intention of this live stream. This is a historical and biological recount of genetic justification for their actions. So this is heavily weighted in environmental reality, which came into the crafting of modern European civilization and modern Caucasia as a whole, right? Excluding the ones who snap out of it. So let me stop yapping and I'll get into the content. So I'm gonna start with. Let me start with this Collargate. Let me start with the Collargate. Collargate. So Hasan Piker, he's a left-wing political streamer, commentator, right? And to be totally honest, I don't have anything against the guy, right? I don't have anything against the guy. But what I did not like in this whole kerfuffle is the fact that, because look, a dog's a dog, obviously I'm not a white person and it's very white American culture to see dogs as humans, right? Personify dogs. So they're part of the family. They sleep in the bed. Sure, I get it. You love your dog. It's one of the family. I get it. I ain't knocking it. But on the reals, at the end of the day, dogs have been bred over time to be farmhands. They were tools essentially. Dogs were bred as tools. They were domesticated as tools. So I'm not gonna come up here and clutch my pearls and pretend that I'm crying, boo-hooing over the fact that this dude shocked his dog, which, as I said, I'm quite convinced he shocked his dog beyond a reasonable doubt at this point for me. That being said, I do have I do take serious. He has a very fragile audience, and I guess he kind of did the calculation, and in his head, he decided that this would be too big of a scandal if he just said, "Yeah, I shocked the dog." So what he decided to do is he decided to pretend that he did not shock the dog. This was his mistake number one. So mistake number one, he said, I didn't shock the dog. And he started talking about how the dog maybe clipped the claw and this and that. But the evidence is damning. The video is damning. He shocked the dog, right? Everyone can see it. Get my banner out of here. Out of here? Yeah, he shocked the dog. So he didn't have to lie. But this is the thing. This is what I'm getting into here. A lot of people of European descent, and Hasan Piker is, as far as I'm concerned, European descent. He's a Turkish person. He leans harder into uh, the Turkish part of his ethnicity because that goes more along with his political leanings, his ideology, and the brand that he's trying to craft, right? But this guy apparently is, he's a Greek guy, Greek and Turkish. So this is straight European playbook right here. So he just started lying. He lie right off the gate, right off rip. He start lying. But the internet, they weren't so convinced. He's got a little cult following. Those people are sucking it up. They're yapping it up. All his friends, his fellow streamers, they're all lying for him. I'll get into that in a bit. But mostly, no one believed this guy. And Americans, especially American whites, they love their dogs. So let's get into it.
Movement 24% complete, 68% complete. Warning, dog movement deceptive. Initiating dog neutralizing procedure.
Hasan goes live holding back tears. Yo, we gotta see this. No intro, no nothing. Yes, we have a lot to talk about. We have Denims coming out and defending Hasan and embarrassing herself. We have more Hasan orbiters coming out to defend him and once again embarrassing themselves. Subscribe to the channel or else Hasan will magically put a collar around you and
So off rip, you see these memes. People are going crazy. This guy is getting bodied on the internet. I don't think he can come back from this, to be honest. I don't think he can. I don't think he can come back from this, and it's unfortunate because he does, as I said, he has some views that I think are very very positive, right, for the world and especially for young people. The youth nowadays, especially in America, they're going down a path that could be very dangerous, very dangerous. But This guy just cooked himself just straight up off deception. Because the thing is, when you're someone who is bringing information, bringing the news, reporting, anything in that lane, and you're seen as not credible or you're seen as deceptive, that is a nuke into your future, into your career. So, rip.
Shock you whenever you disagree with him. So, not a threat, but I think it's better to subscribe. Let's watch this clip. I gotta see this. Ain't no way.
I don't know what else to say about this stuff. I don't know. It's just, please. Like, I need to do my job. Okay. There are a lot of adults in here, and there are a lot of young people in here as well that want to hear about the news. Okay. They want to hear about what's going on. Defending your favorite streamers, not advocacy or organizing, please refocus, chatters. It's just, it's utterly irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. I know it sounds like it's the most consequential thing that's ever happened in the history of mankind, and people are really dragging it over and over again. But please, for the love of God, like, it's going to be all right. Okay. You know the truth. It doesn't matter. Like, what do you want me to do? At this stage, we have entered a new era on the internet.
Fair use, by the way. Just wanted to put that out there.
I've been an active watcher now, and I'm honestly disgusted. I've honestly been watching you for a while, and you kind of disappointed me.
So these are people in his chat. These are people who are turning on him in his chat, which is, he's got one of the most loyal chats on the internet. And even they are turning on him at this point. This has been going on for about 2 weeks now. So, again, rip.
What do you mean?
What do you mean I disappointed you? What did I do? It's not like I shocked the dog and then said, no, I didn't shock the dog. But then one of my friends confirmed, yeah, you do have a collar, and then was taped. But then you said it was never. It's like, let me just break it down for you, Habibi Piker. So people are mad because you keep lying, and you are, let's see, when did I last upload? Because I've been sick, I've been hustling, I've been doing a lot of things, so I lost all track of time. So the last time that I uploaded was a day. Okay, it was a day ago. It feels longer. I don't know why. It's been a day and a half. You have changed the story about 10 times. You and your friends are struggling to maintain the same story together.
And this is the thing. It's not even the fact that he just came out and lied off rip, right? The dude actually kept changing the story. I don't know if these people are not intelligent enough to, there's that old joke, like, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. This was exactly the opposite. These people had a story and they did not stick to it. They stuck to the story like Teflon.
It's falling apart. Well, it's not falling. It has fallen apart. I've made a lot of videos about this. You guys have been keeping track of the situation, the story. That way Hasan is like, oh, you guys know the truth, so forget about any other options out there. It sounds like a cult. It sounds like, let me raise the walls of the garden so you can't peek outside and you can't form any other opinion. I've said this for years, ever since I really took off like 4 or 5 years ago. It's okay to explore other options. I'm not always right. Sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I say dumb shit. I'm not perfect. I'm a human being. I'm flawed. That is why, in my opinion, it's okay to get info from here and from there, seek other sources, seek other opinions. I don't like to live in an echo chamber. I don't.
This dude yapping more than me. He yapping.
Only like surrounding myself with people that agree with me in my personal life. I find different perspectives interesting. I don't want to live in my little bubble of, if anyone dares to criticize me, they're wrong. At least I personally like to hear other people out. I like to hear different perspectives. I don't like to live in, I'm always right, and anyone else that fucking disagrees with me is a hater or they want me fucking killed. No, that's insane. But that's what's happening with Hasan here. The walls are closing in. His fans, his own fans, people that have been giving him money for years. And we talked about this a few videos ago. There was this guy that was subscribed for over 40 months who was calling him out.
Hey, stop playing with your fanny pack.
Hey, we don't pay for premium over here. StreamYard is expensive enough, let me tell you.
Get out of here. They're not some random op or some hater. These are your fans.
I've been an active watcher now, and I'm honestly disgusted. I've honestly been watching you for a while, and you kind of disappointed me. What do you mean?
That's the thing. Yo, the way he handled this was extremely disappointing. It's I don't know what fans are aligning with this, because this is wild. Even if you, at the best, if you're going to be as charitable as possible and you say, okay, the guy did not shock his dog, which is completely delusional if you believe that, even if you hold that belief, just seeing this unfold and seeing the people put out a story and having it crumble the next day because, these people on the internet, you can't beat these people. You can't beat the meme team. The meme team was out full force. People were turning up, the resolution on his videos, inspecting, zooming in, seeing the tape that he cut. These people just cooked him. So every day he had to change his story because people were digging harder and harder. And then they dug up more stuff, more examples of abuse, right? So none of this would have happened. He could have escaped all of this had he just said, yo, I shocked my dog. It's a collar that's sold on Amazon. It's not like this is some torture device that he got on the dark web. All he had to do was say, I shocked my dog. I had it too high intensity. Normally I have it lower. I apologize. You know, it didn't look good. I was stressed. Whatever. People would have forgave him because again, he had a very loyal community. People would have forgotten about it like this. His haters would have tried pushing it, but it wouldn't have got traction like it did. But the reason he tried to conceal and lie, and the next day he's showing the collar, but he's not really showing it. David Copperfield, people just attacked. They attacked.
I gotta stop reading this stuff. People like to be a part of something larger. People like to be a part of a larger movement. Okay. People like to be a part of a larger movement, and very clearly, this is like a big thing that all the normies have gotten on board with. It is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it. There's not really anything I can do about it other than just keep doing what I'm doing. And
the thing is, he's trying to downplay this whole thing, but he's saying that this is something that all the normies got it on board with. And that's kind of, he kind of let that slip, because if you know anything about the internet, once normies catch a story, that means it's mainstream. That means the horse is out of the gate, right? That means it's out of control, uncontrolled burn, right? Once normies take hold of a story, this was on Fox News. And these people hate Hasan, right? These people are rabid right-wingers, right? Some of these people, like Fox News, I'm no fan of Fox News. These people are nuts. You have anchors on Fox News saying that you should go out and delete homeless people. On live news, these people openly say crazy stuff. So these people are the exact opposite of Hasan's ideology, and they are directly his enemy. So once those people got hold of it, once it started getting traction in mainstream media, the dude was cooked. Because now, as he said, the normies took hold of the story.
hopefully people will realize that there's no accuracy or veracity to the claims being made.
See, Hasan, this is why people don't like you. It's because you're such a fucking liar. You're such a fucking manipulator. You love to twist words, so your dumbass fans that have a combined IQ of 0.5, you think everyone is as dumb as your cult fans, as your sheep fans, as your NPC fans. I just find it so disrespectful that Hasan thinks we're dumb. I think that's like the biggest offense. And just because they're stupid doesn't mean the rest of us are stupid. We could actually question you. We could actually ask questions like, why have you switched this story like 10 times by now? I forgot I tweeted this. I just saw this. We need to keep bullying him. I agree with this random stranger that definitely isn't me. Definitely do not follow him, guys. Gets caught lying 8 times. Guys, please move on. Can we please focus on the war or like egg prices or groceries being so expensive instead of if I shock the dog or not? Don't get me wrong. I definitely do think there's more important stuff to talk about, bigger issues in this country and in this world. But just because all of that is going on doesn't mean we can't be critical of a douche influencer shocking a dog and then lying about it like 30 different times. You could be upset at multiple things, guys. I don't know why that's so hard to understand. All right, what are we doing here, dude?
First of all, the product can't be turned
Wow. It was just George Floyd's birthday, too. Shout out to George Floyd. Happy birthday to George Floyd and Charlie Kirk. They have the same birthday, let me tell you.
into a vibrating collar, for starters. Second, the taped photo is fucking doctor, dude. You fell for misinfo. Congrats.
See, right here. This was day one, or this was very soon after this whole thing was leaking. And this genius over here, this is the thing. If I would never tie myself like this to a large creator, because you don't know these people. I don't even know people that I grew up with, right? You never really know someone. You may think you know people, but there are people who have been married for 20 years and then they get divorced and they're like, I never knew this person. So the fact that these people tie themselves, like these people will actively restream identical talking points that Hasan talks about. So what they've done is they've taken the easy route, easier to build an audience. You know, I'm out here, I'm trying to build an audience the hard way, the squad way, right? The squad way, Gucci Mane. I'm out here trying to build an audience the real way, right? The organic way. But an easy route is to latch on to a large creator's teeth and suckle the teeth, right? So these people suckle the teeth. And what they've done now is their audience is so intertwined and intermingled with Hasan that they cannot differ from any of his talking points. They cannot disagree with anything he says, right? And they have to be on his side in these types of controversies. Now, here's the thing. If I was tied to a creator like this, which I would never do, if something like this happened, my mouth would be shut. My lips would be sealed. And I think that there's a gender issue here. There is a difference here, because when I look at Hasan's male friends versus his female friends, all the female friends were acting like they were CCTV in the room. All his female friends were acting like they were there. First person. They're all like, oh, No, he was reaching for his zins. They have no camera on his left hand, but all his female friends was, before any information came out, they already were telling the narrative of, oh, he's reaching for this, oh, that, oh, XYZ. So she came out and said, there's no tape. This was Photoshop. And she looked dumb as hell. As days went forward, these people looked dumb as hell. They had egg on their face. They looked dumb as hell. This is a learning experience for any small creators. If you're seeing this is what not to do if you're trying to build a career.
Congratulations, bro. This image, you can clearly see the tape. The tape image is a doctored photo. I took this from the VOD directly.
Who is Steph? See, it's all these women. The women here, they're captivated by Hasan's looks, right? The guy's in shape, right? He's objectively like a good-looking, Caucasian man, right? So all these chicks are just swooning. They have thrown their logic out the window completely because they think the guy's good-looking and they think he's finna smash. That's what it is. Because when I look at these women, for example, Taylor Lorenz, who got up here on the internet a couple days ago and said, she was, because Cutie Cinderella is one of Hasan's best friends. You may see this come up in this video, I'm not sure. But Cutie Cinderella recently just blew up this whole story because she said that she physically, in person, saw the collar and said that it was taped off and it had removed prongs. Because Cutie Cinderella is Hasan's best friend, one of his best friends, who actually hangs out with Hasan. All the rest of these losers, they wish they hung out with Hasan. So they're doing their best to cover for him, to make him look good, because they're like, oh, Hasan, please, let me get a taste, right? These girls they're trying to smash. Straight up. I know when chicks finna smash, and these chicks are desperate, thirsty, trying to get in that Thai can. Know what I'm saying? So Taylor Lorenz got up here and really said, she said, Taylor Lorenz is a woman who's obsessed. If you see her videos, this woman is obsessed to the point of mental instability, how obsessed she is with Hasan. She really got up here and said, Cutie, whatever her name is. Yo, I know women better than that. Okay? When a woman likes you, when a woman is interested in you on this internet, someone like Taylor Lorenz, who claims to be a journalist, this woman really came out here and said she doesn't know the name of Hasan's best friend. This woman knows everything about Cutie Cinderella, I could guarantee you. This woman be stalking Cutie Cinderella. And she really is so jealous and so slippery and slithery that she got up here and said, Cutie, I don't know her name is. Trying to front like she don't know who she is. I heard that. I'm like, yo, these chicks are out of control. But watch this brainiac over here talk about how there's no tape and how this is a Photoshop image. The next day they came out with a video. They're like, oh yeah, you think it's an image? Here's a video.
And when you look at the fucking artifacting on these photos, it's very obviously a fucking Photoshop job. Like, you literally fell for misinfo. Congrats. You can just hate Hasan, by the way. You can just say, I don't like him.
I mean, I do say that. Everything has collapsed at this point.
See, this dude, the video I'm watching, he doesn't like Hasan. I got nothing against the dude. But I call a spade, and I see some deceptive behavior right here.
There wasn't even tape, guys. You imagine the tape, okay? Once again, I'm gonna play this clip.
What I had to say, I looked at the collar. The collar is taped off where I think there would be prongs. Yeah. There's no zap. There's only a vibrate function.
Who do I trust, guys?
So that's Cutie Cinderella. She just said,
I mean, I do say that. Everything.
This was the video that blew the case open. The hypothetical case, because there are no criminal charges being filed. This is not a real case, but the internet memer case, right? This is what blew it open, because this is someone, all these women who trying to get a taste, right? Trying to get in with Hasan, trying to ride into Taycan, right? All these chicks that pretending that they be at his house every day. Oh, I met the dog. They all like to insert that they met the dog, because that, one, gives them more credibility, and two, it makes it seem like, oh yeah, I'm in with Hasan. Yo, these chicks ain't chilling with Hasan. But Cutie Cinderella chilling with Hasan.
There wasn't even
she at his house every week.
You imagine that.
And she said, I saw the collar and it's taped off and there's removed prongs. So nothing any of these whack-ass chicks be getting up here and saying holds any weight.
Tape, okay? Once again, I'm gonna play this clip.
What I had to say, I looked at the collar. The collar is taped off where I think there would be prongs. There's no zap. There's only a vibrate function.
Who do I trust, guys? Who do I trust? Hasan tells TMZ he's receiving death threats and dog napping threats after going viral.
We do not care.
Where I'm like looking back to give her a place command, it looks like I'm moving around where all my Zintons are, ironically enough. And then she yelps. And she's getting back up onto the bed. In the process of getting back up onto the bed, she yelps in that moment. And every now and then, she snags her claw into something like a dew claw. Or
So this is him now. Talk about normies. TMZ has picked up this story now. That's how cooked this dude is. So he's now doing damage control on TMZ, and he's saying how he's going back now to the original story, which is wild to me. But he's going back to the original story that the dog clipped her dew claw, which is a claw that's up here on a dog, right? They have their paws here, and they have this other high claw higher up, right? This claw is pointing downwards. I used to have a dog. This claw is pointing downwards. So in order to clip that claw, the dog's paw needs to be moving in a downward motion in order to get it caught up, right? You're picturing the dog's claw. This is the claw, right? On the paw, right? The dog needs to be traveling downwards in order to clip. In order to clip that claw, there needs to be a downward motion. We need like some football referees. Downward motion, right? Forward motion. It was a pass. The claw needs to be traveling downwards, because if the claw is traveling upwards, right, it's gonna slip by. So when you watch the video of the dog getting shocked, the dog is going back onto the bed. So the dog is lifting the claw. So the dog could not clip the claw if the dog is lifting the paw. Like, how stupid are these people? Or I should say, how stupid do they think their audience is? I mean, they must know their audience. People are falling for it, so they must know their target market. But again, if the dog's paw is moving upwards, that claw is not going to get snagged. If the dog's paw is moving downwards, like the dog was stepping off the bed, it could get snagged. Right? That's the claw that's up here. So this story just makes absolutely no sense. But these people are just so comfortable lying, and they just damage control. Look at this face. Look at this is the face of an honest boy.
or if she steps on something funny. Sometimes when I'm wrestling with her, she'll give off like a little yelp. Or sometimes when she's playing with other dogs, she'll give off a yelp. She wasn't even wearing like the vibration collar that's in contention now. Like everyone's like, this is not, he definitely shocked her. Like on that day, she just had like a regular collar. She has a bunch of different collars. There's like a fly collar, there's a vibration collar.
Now, if I was dumb, I would believe this. Let's talk about the Zin situation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see him put anything in his mouth. Shortly after reaching for the Zin, NMP LOL comments on Collargate. No idea who this guy is. I've been told this guy is known for saying a lot of dumb shit. Hasan Orbiter, number 67, has now been...
This is 50 Questions with John.
I think this is the first dude that I saw come out, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is the first one of his male friends that I saw make a statement. But you can see the difference in his statement versus the women's statement. The women's statements, they're acting like they were there. This dude is taking a different approach. Listen.
My personal experience, because I've met Kaya, and Hasan's a good friend of mine. I can tell you that dog is loved. Like, regardless of what happened or didn't. I have no idea if it happened or not. But
see? I have no idea if it happened or not. That's the difference between a man and a woman. These people love to say that there's no difference between men and women, right? I beg to differ.
But dogs that aren't loved don't act the way Kaya acts. Dogs that are mistreated and that have abuse, they're not like well trained, like they act out. Like the dogs that are like chained in the yard all the time, the ones that be like biting people as they run by. But Kaya on the other hand, like I remember I was sitting at Hasan's house a couple years ago, and this big old fluff ball just comes running down the stairs, jumps on top of me, starts licking my face as if we were best friends forever.
I saw this tweet and I was like, this is legitimately what I was gonna say. They just took the words out of my mouth. NMP LOL comments on a woman being abused by her husband. I can tell you that the woman is loved. I have no idea if it happened or not. Women who aren't loved don't act the way she does. They act out. I mean, she cooked me dinner with a black eye, but I didn't see anything, guys. This is a message to Hasan or his orbiters. Do you think we're 5 years old and we can't have critical thinking here? It's low-key insulting that people think we're this dumb. I mean, the times that I've interacted with Diddy, he was always nice. He never did anything weird with me. He wasn't freaky with me. Now, I don't know what he did to his girlfriend or what went down at the Diddy parties, but me and Diddy, we were cool. He was always chill with me. He threw me a few racks here and there. I don't know what he did behind the scenes.
That's the thing. And I can tell you, I'm sure that a community like Hasan's, they were all over that Diddy thing. They were saying, oh, throw him under the jail, execute him, right? And granted, Diddy, he was beating up that girl, right? He was beating up that girl bad. But is he a sex trafficker? Is he some sort of what were they trying him for? They were trying him with RICO. Is this guy running an organized crime conglomerate trafficking women? The guy has $1 billion music industry. The guy owns a freaking vodka brand. The guy's not he's not sprinkling in a bit of sex trafficking on the side. This guy is a freaky dude. He likes to smash girls. He has weird proclivities, right? He has these parties. And he beats up his girlfriend. It's that simple. If they were trying the dude for beating up his girlfriend, they would have had a better case. But I'm sure all these people from that one video, which shouldn't have been released before a trial, that's another story, because they directly tried to poison jurors. They poisoned the well. Because they came out with a video that the whole USA saw, the whole internet saw internationally, right? And then they're bringing this dude to trial. What you think? You think they were able to find jurors in the United States that didn't see that video? So it's like this double standard of, we could look at Diddy beating up a girl and come to the conclusion that the guy's got this international sex trafficking ring. Meanwhile, we visibly clearly see objectively a dude reach off camera and a dog yelp right after, and they saying, there's nothing there. These people are just liars.
Guys, probably a nice guy. Can't with these Hasan orders. If I see one more being deployed, I'm actually going to lose my shit. They always say the same thing. I'm sick. I'm sick of them treating us like we're 5 years old and we're brain dead. Hasan claims all of his haters are misogynist. Ain't no way. This is what he's going with now?
Who do people hate on the internet the most? Women. Like, women are the #1 op.
I mean, not really. Right now, it's probably Indians, dude.
My ops already hate women automatically. Women are the only group of people that get it as hard as I do, if not worse. All of the...
Is that an admission there? How hard do you get it, Hasan?
All of the people that hate me also automatically hate women in general, which is why they moved on from they haven't really moved on from targeting me, but they very aggressively spread their hatred and animosity to all of my female friends.
It's because every single women streamer that's defending you is a fucking idiot. Like,
that's the thing. It's not because they're women, it's the way that they're behaving. And they also happen to be women. Right? And I would take it a bit further and say, well, if you compare the female friend actions versus the male friend actions, but that's another story for another day. But it's not because these people are women. I'm sure, granted, I'm sure there are a lot of people, because his enemy is the right wing. And of course, there are a lot of basement dwelling people who actually hate women, right? And they can't get a girl, so they're gonna blame all of the whole female gender. Okay, granted. But this hate is not because people are misogynist. This hate is because you shocked the dog, you lied, you pressured all your friends to lie for you, and the women are getting on stream and talking crazy like they were there when they were not there. In many cases, they know less than some of the memers that are coming after you about this dog. So I get it. He's trying to do damage control. He's trying to, victimize himself to protect himself. But it's like, dude, you just had to say you did it and apologize. It's way too late for that now. But, this is a cautionary tale. Don't be a deceptive little shit. And if you're gonna be deceptive and you get caught, own up to it. This looks like a little kid, the kid that ate chocolate and got chocolate all over his mouth, and he's like,
it's nothing to do with the fact that they're women. I mean, even the NMP LOL guy, whoever the fuck that was, he's a guy. I think he's a fucking idiot. Funny thing is, it's just one giant coincidence that every single woman that's come out and defended you is fucking stupid. Like, I don't know, dude, that's your friend. This is just from 2 hours ago. Unk is actually losing his mind. Ain't no way.
I can't stand any of you dumb fucks in this goddamn chat. Oh my fucking god, I hate the left. I hate liberalism. I hate...
all of the women are also dumb. It's not that all women are dumb. It's the fact that, Hasan, your female friends are all idiots. That's on you. There was one woman who, she's from a podcast who she didn't come out and make a statement. She did now. She did an interview with Taylor Lorenz, which was a complete disaster. I don't know what she was thinking. Of all people to interview on this matter, she decided to interview Taylor Lorenz. And this was an absolute disaster. I was so happy because I didn't have to watch more than 1 minute of it. I opened the video. Within 1 minute, I was on the floor. My six-pack was sculpted. Because listen to this. Look how dumb Taylor Lorenz is. And this woman screwed up heavy. I've had it podcast woman interviewing Taylor Lorenz. She screwed up heavy. Watch how dumb this Taylor Lorenz is. Taylor Lorenz, who came out and said, "Oh, I know the dog. I know the dog so well. She's so sweet. He doesn't abuse her." Look at this quality A1 journalist over here, Taylor Lorenz. Let's hear what she has to say about the dog.
I want to welcome journalist Taylor Lorenz to iHip News, and we are going to discuss this controversy about Hasan Piker and his dog. And I know Hasan, Pumps knows Hasan. Hasan is really good friends of ours. And I've somehow been drug into this thing, and Taylor has been covering it. And so for those of you who
Got drug in because of the memes, let me tell you.
don't know, you might not know who Hasan Piker is. He's a Twitch streamer. He is woke AF, like very critical of Israeli aggression.
We're 30 seconds in. Watch this.
Critical of the Democratic establishment, and he works his ass off. And my oldest son, is the biggest fan of his, and we collab with Hasan a lot.
Not biased at all. Great journalism here.
And Taylor's been covering the story, but here's how it started. So Hasan streams, like he Twitches or whatever it's called, for like 8 hours a day, all the time. And his dog sits there, and her name is Kaya, and she's super cute. And Kaya was getting riled up, and he told her to calm down and get back in her place.
A minute in. All right, so it's 2 minutes in. Watch this.
And everybody accused him of shocking his dog. Is that right, Taylor?
Yeah, the dog has a little doggy bed that he lays on so that he doesn't hurt his joints by sitting on the floor all day. And he seems to have like clipped his like nail. Like,
Did you guys catch it? She thinks the dog's a boy. And this woman's panicking already. She's like, "Oh damn! Like, yo, we should have had an NFL playbook. Yo, she messed up the play. She messed up the play." She's like, "I cannot believe this woman's about to fumble my whole interview 2 minutes in." Listen.
In her place. And everybody accused him of shocking his dog. Is that right, Taylor?
yeah, the dog has a little doggy bed that he lays on so that he doesn't hurt his joints by sitting on the floor all day. And he seems to have like clipped his like nail, like it got caught in the
It's a girl.
bed.
She goes, it's a girl. Look at her face. At this moment, she knew she fucked up.
Sorry. Oh my God.
Oh my god. Oh my god, sorry. Cooked. These people, they can't stop making it worse. They just can't. They can't help themselves. They really can't help themselves. We get back into this dude's. Where that? Yo, they can't help themselves, these people.
Fucking day of the goddamn week. I hate my life. I hate fucking streaming. I hate socialism. I hate every single fucking person who thinks that the peak of activism is just being the most annoying, holier than thou, the most ultimately woke leftist.
Yo, they're getting dude to crash out. Look at him. Yo, he looks like freaking Sam Hyde. Yo, they turned Hasan into Sam Hyde. Yo, I better be careful, man, because yo, Hasan about to come for me. Hasan gonna be an alt-right winger now. He's gonna come for the blacks.
It's going on every single fucking day of the goddamn week. I hate my life. I hate fucking streaming. I hate socialism. I hate every single fucking person who thinks that the peak of activism is just being the most annoying, holier than thou, the most ultimately woke leftist. You did it. You have unlocked the fucking nihilism within me, okay?
Hasan, if he was actually good. Like I said in this tweet, we need to keep bullying him. He's pretty close to breaking, and it's fun.
These dudes are loving it. All these right wingers are loving it. These guys are loving it.
I have no empathy. Remember, guys, you don't get empathy until you're 32, so.
When the reporter is asking about optimism, I want to just shut it off, dude. I want to shut everything off. I just want to go away. If I wasn't so goddamn stubborn, I would have a long time ago. Oh my lord, dude. I 100% think you should something go on sub-only mode. What do you mean? The most annoying people are literally like the 40-month subscribers. The person that caused me to fucking spiral just now is Hidejo Offliner or whatever. And that is like a routine nuisance and an offliner in this community. Okay? He is
So that, I'm not going to go too deep into that because, you know, I could care less about this now. You know, it's at the tail end. I wouldn't have even, I'm done making posts about it. I just had to post about that. That Taylor Lorenz was crazy. That was crazy. Where yesterday she's talking big about how she knows this dog so well. And today, she doesn't even know the gender of the dog.
Dog has a little doggy bed that he lays on so that he doesn't hurt his joints by sitting on the floor all day. And he seems to have like clipped his like nail, like it got caught in the
Unbelievable. This is brain dead journalism out here. And she refers to herself as a journalist. She's trying to be a journalist. Can you imagine? Could you imagine this person trying to get a job as a journalist? These are the people complaining that AI is going to take their jobs. Well, duh. No shit. Wonder what Grok thinks. If Grok thinks he shocked the dog. Unbelievable. So anyway, this is the intro to how deceptive these people are, right? This comes natural to these people. So why are these people like this? Right? So when you look at European history, right? Europe was cold, right? These people, they came out of Africa. These are people of African descent, right? Tens of thousands of years prior, right? Or however long, if you're a biblical person, let's call it 1,000 years, whatever. Years prior, these people came out of Africa. They were either exiled or they were exploring, right? And they landed into Europe, right? They settled in Europe. These people were in caves, right? Cold climate. They had an environment of scarcity, right? Because winter comes, so you don't have crops all year long. So there's no crops all year long, and that's why it's very big. Preserves are very big in European culture, right? Because of these cold climates. So people would take berries, they would take fruits, vegetables, whatever. They would can them, they would pickle them. This is where this culture came out of winter. So these Africans who migrated to Europe and other places in the mountains and such, right? To these cave, cold climates, right? They were in an environment that required them to be more cutthroat, right? To be more deceptive, to hoard what they had, to save, to hang on to what they had, right? This is very beneficial in today's society because you see the successful people. This is the kind of mentality that is required in order to be successful in today's day and age in the capitalist society. So this is really and truly the evolution of a people who came out of a climate that required such behavior. So none of this is hate. None of this is pointing the finger and saying, you're all bad. That's one thing I don't jump on. I don't blanket statement all people. I don't blanket statement all women or all Caucasians or nothing. I'm giving you the historical fact of why these people are so comfortable lying. So we're going to check this out. I have this quick video here. This life in Paleolithic Europe. So they are claiming it's 35,000 years or whatever, 35,000 years ago. And again, if you're one of these biblical people, you may say, hey, the earth's only 7,000 years old, whatever. The timeline doesn't matter. Map it onto your timeline. The point is, these are early Europeans, okay? These are early Europeans.
Okay, we need a new movie.
So all this, they get their money here, YouTube.
Looked extremely different to how it does today. Virtually all of northern Europe was covered in glaciers. Huge beasts roamed the land, from mammoths with 4-meter tusks to the shaggiest of shaggy rhinos, and prides of cave-dwelling lions that stalked them both. And as I'm sure you can guess, it was bloody cold too. About 3,000 to 4,000 years prior to this, colossal pieces of ice had broken away from the Arctic.
So how did these people become white, you may ask? Now, why you think black people are black is because of the climate, the high UV, right? If you look at any people who are native to high UV climates, they have dark skin. They have highly melanated skin because these people require the melanin in order to block out the strong UV rays. Why do black people have a big, broad nose? Because the air is warm. So the air can directly come into their nasal cavity, can go down the esophagus and go into the lungs as warm air. Whereas people who were in a cold climate for thousands of years, their skin became lighter, right? Even my skin, if I'm in a cold climate for 8 months and I'm wearing long sleeves, my under my arms is going to get much lighter than if I'm in the middle of the Caribbean for months, right? So this happens even within one person's lifetime. Your skin will get lighter or darker. You see some people who are more Mediterranean, right? Like a Greek or an Italian. These people go over to a hotter climate and they become olive toned, right? Their skin becomes a darker tone because their skin is releasing more of the melanin in order to block these sun rays. So over time, thousands of years, right, the nose now starts to become more slender, right, because the air is so cold and it's not feasible, or it's not it doesn't help them in any way to have a large broad nose in a cold climate. You're going to get sick a lot more often, right, because you have cold air coming in into your lungs, into your esophagus. You're going to develop bronchitis, all kinds of issues. Bronchitis is when the bronchioles in your lungs start to release mucus, and the mucus is to protect against the fact that you got a lot of cold air into your respiratory tract, right? Your respiratory tract. And that's why the mucus develops. It's like a defense mechanism against the cold. That can develop into worse things, pneumonia, whatever. The point is that these people were in a cold climate for thousands of years, so their features started to change. They became lighter skin. They got slender noses that would warm air as it went into the nose, right? To prevent sickness. So this is where these white people came from.
Known as a Heinrich event, this dramatically cooled the climate. Forests shrank, steppe and tundra expanded. Perhaps connected to this, the Neanderthals, who had lived in Europe for hundreds of thousands of years, were by this point no more. They had been replaced or entirely assimilated into groups of Homo sapiens who had arrived in the continent about 10,000 years earlier.
It's these early groups of humans that I want to talk about today, these pioneers that spread across the landscape. We know them as the Aurignacian culture, or proto-Aurignacian culture, after the Aurignac cave.
See, even he's saying 43,000 years-ish, because these people have no idea how long ago this was. We see that in, paleontology, where they'll tell you something's 40 million years ago, and then overnight they'll say, oh, we did a miscalculation. It's actually 22 million years ago. So they'll literally be 100% margin of error. Like, it's wild. So
in France, where they were first discovered. Mon Dieu, sacre bleu. Forgive the French vibes today. What can archaeology tell us about the lives of these people who lived in a landscape so unfamiliar to us, who led a life so different to ours? I mean, a Europe with no British tourists. Must be heaven. So peaceful.
So this is, this is an English channel. La vie et la mort en Europe. So life and death in Europe about 35,000 years ago. La culture aurignacienne. So the Aurignacian culture. Partie 1, arriver. So this is the first part where they arrive to this land.
Before we get too deep into the weeds, it's important to note that this Aurignacian culture was almost certainly not the very first arrival of Homo sapiens into the continent. At Apodema Cave in modern-day Greece, a possible Homo sapien cranium was found and dates to an astonishingly old 210,000 years ago.
I'm going to call cap on that, but whatever, go off, King.
This skull may well represent our species' earliest attempts at migrating out of Africa. Another early example of humans entering Europe was found at Bacho-Kiro Cave in Bulgaria, which is possibly as old as 47,000 years ago, but belongs to
Yeah, shout out to Kick. Shout out to y'all on Kick.
A technological tradition called the initial Upper Paleolithic, not the Aurignacian. The point is, humans may have been periodically tinkering around the edges of the continent for a long time, but it seems that none of these earlier expansions were permanent. It wasn't until around 45,000 years ago that Proto-Aurignacian groups start to appear in the archaeological record. Just as I'm editing this absolute emotional rollercoaster of a video, another paper is released talking about the arrival of Aurignacian people in...
So I'm going to go back here. So look how they depict these people. These are the first Europeans. These are the first Europeans. Look how they're depicted. Right? So where do you think these people came from?
That Proto-Aurignacian groups start to appear in the archaeological record. Just as I'm editing this absolute emotional rollercoaster of a video, another paper is released talking about the arrival of Aurignacian people in Europe, and it basically pushes back the date of the arrival of Aurignacian people in Portugal in the far west of Europe by 5,000 years. So keep in mind,
like I just said, you see they're playing around with 5,000 years at a time. They ball in with them years.
When we're talking about prehistory, things can change very quickly. A lot of these Aurignacian sites, there aren't human remains, we're just going off tools. It can be kind of hard to find those and interpret them. It's entirely possible that not only were other techno-complexes, other cultures arriving in Europe at a very early date, like the initial Upper Paleolithic at Bacho Kiro Cave, but that also the Auric nation might have arrived in Europe earlier than we currently realize. So things always change. I try my best to keep up, but that's what makes archaeology so interesting, isn't it? Back to the studio. As for where these Auric nation people came from, we're not 100% sure.
We're not 100% sure. These people just cope. These people cope so hard. These people cope so hard. As to where these people came from, we're not entirely sure. Yeah, no idea.
100% sure. They probably expanded out from the Levant, where we find similar tools dated to the same time period.
Yeah, they came from the Levant, guys. They were Sephardic Jews.
But it's also possible this culture developed in what are now Iran's Zagros Mountains.
Oh yeah, possible. Maybe they came out of the ocean. They might have been ocean people.
It's hard to say for sure because we're linking sites based on similarities in the stone tools.
They came out of the great deep blue sea.
That these people left behind. Differences can be subtle, and it's hard to draw definitive conclusions, basically.
Anything to say they weren't black. You see this now in Egypt, where for years they were saying, oh, we don't know how the pyramids were made because it wasn't those dumb N-words. That's for sure. We don't know anything about the pyramids, but one thing we know for sure is it wasn't those dumb N-words that made them. It was aliens. And then they started saying, oh, you know what? Actually, just the glasses. Actually, it was the Arabic people, right? The North Africans, they weren't really African. They were Arabic people. So it was them because they're lighter skinned. So yeah, we could we could allow them to we'll give them some clout, right? But it sure as hell wasn't them dumb N-words. Nah, they didn't build nothing. They didn't even have the wheel. They didn't have language. They didn't even talk. They didn't even know how to eat. They never ate. They never ate before Europeans and Arabs came to see them. They never ate. They're like, oh, we've been starving for thousands of years. Thank you.
As for how many people lived in Europe during this time, it's also very hard to say, and again, is far from an exact science. One study of sites in Western and Central Europe estimates there may have only been around 1,500 people spread across this vast area. These 1,500 were highly mobile though. Raw materials for stone tools were transported for several hundred kilometers. Different groups would have been in contact with each other, at least periodically, perhaps meeting at special times of year for friendship, feasting, and of course...
I know what I want to say, but I don't know how to...
And of course, cat ladies.
Probably be much more similar to where I am today. Even though this is the sort of high desert, not tundra, even though this is North America, not Europe, the landscape would have lacked a lot of tree cover. It really would have been very dry, very arid, and features in the landscape like...
So again, arid, right? Dry, cold. So this is a place of scarcity. This place where these people migrated was a place of scarcity, where when they were coming out of Africa, because I'm not buying this whole whatever, y'all could believe what you want, but we know these people came out of Africa because these were the first peoples. We're the first people were in Africa, right? So they're coming out of a land that's plentiful. Africa at this time Africa was green. They have old maps where they're showing Africa having green over the Sahara, right? And this is not even that long ago. This is like I believe 3,000-4,000 year old maps. They had like very primitive maps. They had greenery all over the north of Africa, where the Sahara is now. So Africa was ballin'. Africa had fruits, vegetables, animals right and left, flowers, plants, trees, rivers, right? There are old maps. You look at the time period of Mansa Musa in the Benin area, right? Mali area, Benin. They had rivers going through the north of Africa. So this was a place that was green, fertile, right? Some of the best soil in the world. So these people came from a place where it was plentiful, and they go into this place, which they ain't none. This place is barren. This place doesn't have no food. It's cold half the year, right? Climate is terrible. Very minimal sunlight. No vitamin D. People are pissed. Everyone's upset because, vitamin D deficiency. You get pissed. You get ticked. So they arrive here and they're like, we don't got enough to go around. So this is how they developed this type of backstabby, type of, scheming, type of I gotta take what's not mine type of mentality directly coming out of the environment.
This river valleys, valleys of all sorts, anything that channeled game into one focused location would have been a very popular place to live for these people who entirely depended upon hunting herds of animals, following herds of animals. These people that lived in it all year round would have been intimately familiar with all the plants, all the huge animals that roam this landscape, every turn of the river, every rock. Well, maybe not every rock, there's probably a lot of rocks. But you get what I'm trying to say. It really is hard for us in our modern world to imagine how intimately familiar they were with just living out in nature. Incroyable. Petit Provence.
Part 2, bâton de commandement. So I guess sticks of tools of the trade, I guess. I don't know. Because these are in French. I mean, I could read it literally, but I'm sure these are terms. These are statements in French, right?
Tools, tools, tools. We have to mention them because so often in prehistory is literally all we have to go by. One of the tools that really defines this period of European history are these small bladelets, about 5 centimeters or so in length. Archaeologists believe they formed part of composite weapons. This highly adaptable toolkit was a new invention at the time. These bladelets really were cutting-edge stuff, if you'll forgive the pun, and is in contrast to the level war points which are common from earlier in prehistory and from Neanderthal sites. Speaking of innovations again, one of the biggest differences between humans and Neanderthals is the ubiquitous use of bone and antler tools. Not that Neanderthals never used them, but for Homo sapiens, for us humans, it was an extremely common item. These actually increased in frequency after the Heinrich event at 40,000 years ago, which has led to a lot of head scratching as to why. Were humans following herds more? Did they find it easier to access bone than flint? We don't have a good answer to that question at the moment. Each part of the animal was generally used for different purposes. Antler, particularly reindeer antler, was made into weapons. Points with a split base for hafting are common for the era. These points are not thought to have been arrowheads, though. More likely they were attached to throwing spears.
So you see, even the craftsmanship, right? You get a lot of people nowadays talking about how, you know, these Africans are ooga booga and they don't have any modern tools. But if you look at the tools that they were making, these are African style weaponry for the time period. These are tools that Africans were very well versed in making. So, I mean, these people, they just cope. Why antler breathe into... Okay.
Just as I'm about to release this video, everyone, Dr. James Dilly here, an absolute expert on prehistoric tools, maker of a brilliant YouTube series called Nap Time, the founder of ancientcraft.co.uk, where you can find beasts like this Mesolithic axe he made for me, at the most reasonable rate in town. Dr. Dilly here had finished some research on these Auric Nation split-based points, and he's willing to hop on and share his knowledge with us. So thank you very much for that, Dr. Dilly.
That's quite all right. I feel like this is going to be the Viva exam No 2. Contextualize the Auric Nation for us. Tell us about your research.
Yeah.
So be kind. Be kind.
Oh, no, it's super easy. I only have one question. It just strikes me as someone who isn't familiar with prehistoric tools that making something from antler would not be that sharp, and it would be quite a difficult weapon to use, and not as good as a stone tool, perhaps.
Well, that's exactly why the PhD thesis came to be. Why would you use a piece of antler when, during the Mysterium beforehand, Neanderthals were using Levallois stone points, and after the Auric Nation in the Gravettian, they were using stone points again. They do use osseous points again, made of bone and antler here and there, but in the Auric Nation, they like their antler points. To set the scene, I guess, of the Auric Nation, my PhD mainly focused on Northwest Europe, but looked at a much broader landscape as well, because there isn't a great deal of Auric Nation archaeology from the Northwest, so I had to look at a broader picture of things. But it would have been really cold. We think of central France today, certainly Europeans think of central France, well, I'll narrow that down a bit more. Brits think of central France for a holiday destination, think, oh yeah, nice and warm, wine, perfect.
Imagine thinking France is warm. Oh, we got some nice, this is some nice European culture here, you see. See, now, there are no black people here in frame. But these are the same people. These are the people that are marching today with the, the Tommy Robinson. They're trying to get immigrants out of their country because they're saying that these people are savage. You see, there are no black or ethnic people, or ethnic, right? You know what I mean by ethnic. There are no black people in this frame. So if it weren't for this camera, we would never know about this. But this is how these people behave. And it's not that they're more savage or they're more crazy than other races. That's not what I'm saying. But it's the fact that these people will pretend that they never behave like this. That's what's so interesting. These people will get up here and gaslight and say, we're the most civilized, We civilize the whole world. Everyone else acts like monkeys, right? But then we see videos like this, and this is directly part of their culture. Getting plastered, getting wasted, drunk, right? The guy's stripping in an establishment, and people are not even disgusted. Look at this woman. She's loving it. He's loving it. He's at the tables, granted. She's loving it at a separate table. Everyone's loving it. Had this been a black person, everyone would be clutching their pearls. Oh my gosh, who let this N-word in here? They wouldn't say that, but they would be thinking it, right? Potentially, right? They would say, oh, these people, they come here and they make it so just utterly uncivilized.
During the ordination, the average July temperature would have been 5 degrees Celsius. So cold in July.
Yeah,
So January, December, that would have been really cold. So it pretty much would have been either boreal or Arctic tundra, lots of grassland, very, very few trees. And
that's what's so interesting, just on a side note, because I go into these, grifter spaces, right? One of these dudes, his name's John, right? We'll leave it at John. John has a channel, and this dude just nonstop talks trash about black people. You got Myron Gaines as well. Talk trash about black people, how they act, how they behave, how they're uncivilized, right? And it's like, yo, you could tell that these people did not grow up around white people, because someone who has grown up around white people, I've seen all kinds of degeneracy. And as I said, I know plenty Caucasian people who don't behave like that. I know plenty Caucasians who are completely, chill, and they're very good people. They're cool, and they don't behave like that. They're upper class Caucasians, right? But a lot of these people pretend like every Caucasian is upper class and well to do, and every person with brown skin is like hopping out of a cage. And I check these people regularly, because it's like, yo, you have no interaction with Caucasian people, and you're saying like these people are incapable of degeneracy. It's unbelievable.
And that is the key, really. Few trees. If you've got very few trees that can either be burnt or used for timber for shelters or for spear shafts, you certainly wouldn't have had things like hazel or ash that you think of those classic spear shaft wood species that are really nice and light, they're flexible, perfect. Wouldn't have grown in those environments. It was too cold, there wasn't a long enough growing season, wasn't enough soil, too much permafrost.
See, so this is why I'm going through this whole video, right? Well, I won't go through the whole thing, to be totally honest. It's gonna be way too long, but he just said right there, it's too cold, there's not a long enough growing season. So again, these are all factors that come into play of why these people are deceptive. This is something that has been bred into their culture due to a lot of their, intermarrying and really consolidating their genetics, right? This is out of the culture of Europe. This is what Europe required in order to survive, in order to have success. So the people that you see today walking around, they're the descendants of people who did survive. So they are the descendants of people who took these measures. Whereas I contrast, in African society, people didn't need to behave like that. They talk about cannibalism. It's a very huge trope that Africans are cannibals, when that's pure projection. It was the Europeans who were cannibals. Why? Because they had no food. Why would Africans be cannibals when there's food all over the place? Imagine you live in a grocery store with your family. Why the hell would you eat your mom? Why would you eat your brother? You're in a grocery store. But you see these dumb, I don't want to say low IQ, but these uneducated, I'm going to get it off Hasan because I'm not talking about Hasan here. Poor guy. Where do I put it? Where do I put the image? Maybe I'll go full screen. Oh, poor Hasan. Poor Hasan. These dumb, uneducated right-wingers who just lap this up, these especially Americans, they truly believe when they read in a history book that Africans were cannibals. And if you just think for 1 second, you'll realize that this is a place that's plentiful with food. Especially when we're talking about thousands of years ago. This place had tons of food all over the place, walking around, growing out of the ground, right? These people were not cannibals. Unbelievable. Anyway, that's a... In the wrong tab. I'm in the wrong tab. One sec.
Spear shaft wood species that are really nice and light, they're flexible, perfect. Wouldn't have grown in those environments. It was too cold, there wasn't a long enough growing season, wasn't enough soil, too much permafrost. You wouldn't have got those species. What you would have had is things like pine, larch, and silver birch. And that's about it, really. So, is there a connection between the spearhead and the spear shaft? Why have antler? Well, let's look at the antler tips, I suppose. And for those early origination spear tips, they're not just a simple spear tip that you fit into a notch or a split in the wood. The split or notch is actually in the point. It's a split-based antler point. And that's the interesting thing, because you don't see anything like that apart from these early origination points. So the weakness changes position, because classically you'd have your spear shaft with the notch to fit the stone point or the antler point. But in this case, the split is in the spear tip, whereas the piece of wood, your shaft, is just beveled. So the weakness is in the spear tip. And as they were hunting reindeer, and reindeer would be dropping their antlers, the raw material is all around. But by changing the split and actually putting the what we would consider later as a socket, like a socketed spear, is actually in the spearhead, so that the spear shaft doesn't have that weakness. It's got a much greater chance of not splitting, not breaking, because it's the valuable part.
So really, you think it's a technique for just preserving wood?
Yeah.
Almost like, you know, the point would split off in the animal, and the spear would be perfectly okay to use as another weapon, as that was so hard to obtain as opposed to the antler.
Yeah, definitely. And you could use that in a variety of hunting scenarios as well. You can either just be throwing these spears, going for pot shots, or if you're corralling reindeer into an enclosure, you could just be ramming those points in as deep as they go, pulling the spear shaft out, the point is still in there, and just easily attaching another one, going to hit another animal.
So these are skilled hunters, right? Something that we saw very prevalent in Africa. Africans were never, you know, they never had an issue with hunting the game that was the native in Africa. So these are people that directly came out of Africa. Again, this points to directly towards that.
There are various ways you can go about it.
Well, I almost want to say a semi-automatic spear as a result of that.
Lethal weapon. The suggestion, the margin for a fatal wound is for large herbivores is around 20 centimeters or so.
Quite deep.
That's pretty deep. I mean, that's for people who are still working in Imperial, and that's what.
Don't even get me started on that.
Yeah,
I live in America.
Yeah, that's 8 inches. 8 inches. That is a really deep wound. Really weird thing was that, for a couple of the videos, is that once the hammer had dropped, which was the holding device for these short spears, is that they punched through the ballistics gel, and quite frequently the hammer would then be drawn up for the next shot, and the spear shaft would still be in place, but the antler spear tip was still wedged in the ballistics gel. And with that,
so you see, so they were doing, this was like early firearms almost, you know, hand propelled firearms.
That very tough split-based point, it was keeping the wound channel open like a splint, so the blood loss would have been massively increased, because, you know, if you put a projectile that's got a shaft in it, it would just plug the wound behind it. It's only when, you know, you pull it out.
Hand-propelled ammunition, right? So I'm going to skip ahead because these guys are just, it's too much. It's too much.
Humans are fantastic at creating symbolic connections like that. One tool that has generated more debate than others, though, are the enigmatic perforated batons. The typical baton can...
Look at this. Look at these weapons. These are in museums all over the world. These are African weapons. I've seen European weapons. They're very different. Right? These are technically European weapons. Right? But the European weapons, as they developed, right, as the people started living in different different environments, and the culture got kind of watered down, they were using different weaponry. Like, if you look, this is a perfect example. This is much, much later, but just as an example, because you see how these people just lie, because he said, oh, it's possible they came out of Iran, the Iranian area, whatever. This is Iranian weaponry. So it's very different. This is, I believe, metal, or like this was Smith, right? Smith work, right? But they were making stone weaponry that was similar to this. And even the dude before, the guy was talking about how come they didn't make the weaponry out of stone? Because that is very well known in early European history, the stone weaponry, right? But these bone weapons, right? The bone tools, the antler tools, that these are African traditions, right? Even the symbolism that's on the tools
consists of one, sometimes two holes drilled through an antler, with edges and grooves often scratched along a shaft, sometimes around the hole as well. They can also occasionally be richly decorated. When they were first reported on in 1867, it was believed they were some sort of badge of office, perhaps like a bishop's staff, and were given the name bâtons de commande.
Bâtons de commandement is like the sticks of rain, I guess, right? Commandement is like your leading or whatever, leadership sticks.
But that interpretation has fallen out of favor. To be perfectly honest, we don't know what they were used for. Interpretations range from spear straighteners to atlatls and loads more besides. But in researching this video, I did read a very interesting paper. The authors of the paper analyzed perforated battens from Gough's Cave in Britain's Somerset, and wondered if the design features we see on perforated battens are connected in some way to their use with ropes. As evidence for this, they showed that the battens have a lot of wear around the perforation, likely caused by an elongated object passing through it. Double fractures on the antler suggest that they were put under substantial force, probably much more force than could have been sustained by holding it in the hand. It would have just been yanked out of the hand before it snapped like that. And the bands of incisions made along the shaft may have been connected to the coiling of rope or...
Look at this. Right? Cultures are very particular about their types of artwork and the type of symbolism they put on their tools. This is African symbolism here.
Improving the grip. They hypothesized that it could have been used as some form of peg, perhaps, to support shelters, or maybe suspend meat away from predators. Who knows? Maybe even as part of a harness, or in some way like a sledge guide.
So this is why, because a lot of people will not dig into this stuff, right? They don't want to know about European history, right? Black people don't believe that there's anything to be learned about themselves when looking at European history.
We don't.
But that's a misstep, because look at all this stuff that you can learn from videos like this, right? So you can learn things about your African history by looking at this history, because this is your history. These are the early Europeans were African people that settled out of Africa. It's like you saw how they depicted
The parietal depictions, cave lions, the largest predator of the epoch, practiced coordinated hunts and attacked large prey such as steppe bison and even woolly rhinoceroses. This beast of prey must have been simultaneously feared and admired by the humans who shared their territories. It is conceivable that this combination of fear and admiration inspired in these artists, themselves hunters, a certain fascination.
Look how they depict the people. Woman got black lips, dark skin. She's playing a wind instrument. Wind instruments, right? Come on now.
Practice, a means to constantly negotiate the human-lion relationship that is accompanied with strong and respectful sentiments.
The Maasai only feel this love and respect for the lion. Hyenas and other predators are regarded.
These are the same type of symbolism that was on those European tools, right? You see these things in modern designs today, right? The modern high-end designs, fashion wear.
Simply with disgust. Whatever rituals were being practiced, whatever they thought of lions, we can get an idea of the kind of music that the Lion Man would have listened to. So far, 8 flutes have been recovered from the...
Look at this. This is all African. Like, come on. Unbelievable, these people, eh?
And family would have disposed of you in a...
We don't know where they came from. I'm not sure. They probably were Levantine. They probably were Sephardic Jews. Unbelievable. So that explains to you why the people were deceptive, right? Why they were thieves, They had to develop these traits because of the scarcity in the land. That's how they had to survive. Was survival of the fittest, right? Live or die. You want to die? Then don't start robbing. So when these people now in America, especially, are saying 250-year-old country, right? By the way, 250-year-old country, and they dictating all this stuff about. They act like they know all about the world. 250-year-old country, and they talk the most about everybody. But when you see these Americans talking about how black people are inherently violent and they inherently steal and they inherently this and that, there's no historical backing for this, and there's no, well, I won't go into, but there's no backing. There's no evidence for that whatsoever. This is a present day phenomena because of what happens in the United States, because of the environment of the United States. How a lot of these African descendants, right? The Black Americans, African Americans, they've been cornered through the history of slavery. They've been cornered into very low income lifestyles. They've been cornered into neighborhoods that don't have opportunities for work, don't have a good education system, right? I've spoken on that before, where your schools in your neighborhood are directly tied to your property value. So places that have low property value, low income neighborhoods, the taxes, the property taxes on these properties will only be able to finance the schools to a certain extent because of the low property value. So that's where you get these very low quality schools. So it keeps people in a cycle. Because their property is low income, they go to a bad school. Because they're in a bad school, they don't get a proper education. Because they don't get a proper education, now they can't get proper employment. Now, because they don't have proper employment, they broke. So they back in this whole cycle of in this low income neighborhood, and they don't have many opportunities. That's just the facts, right? And people will argue, oh well, the Caucasians in America don't rob and steal when they are down on their luck, which is completely untrue. You don't see any black people stealing stealing pipes and wire out of walls. No, those are meth heads. So it's like they like to pick and choose where they're going to point the spotlight on what crime, right? But the fact of the matter is, the more you have low income areas, the more you have people who are undereducated, the more it breeds crime. That's just a fact of the matter. But before that, black people around the world did not have an inherent any inherent trait of theft, deception, or any type of violent behavior whatsoever. So I'm going to further allude to this point, right? Drive this point home. This will be the last video in this little this live stream. So this is pointing to the opium trade between England and China, right? So this is a very good video. It's on Absolute History. You can go check out this channel, how the opium trade destroyed China's greatest empire. So again, we see European people being deceptive here and trying to slide their way into a better deal. What ended up happening was China was very wealthy in silver in this time period, and England wanted a piece of that silver, right? So they developed this whole trading system with the Chinese to slowly get some silver out of them. But eventually, they weren't getting enough silver. They wanted more. So what did they end up doing? They ended up trading opium for this silver. And as the population began to get more and more addicted and more dependent on this opium, they were able to extract the silver. And eventually it led to a war where Queen Victoria, because the emperor at the time said, hey, I don't want this coming into my country anymore. It's ruining our people. And what do you think she said? For all the people, all the feminists that love to say, oh, women never started any wars. They're so benevolent and so lovely and they're so gentle. What do you think she did when the emperor said, I don't want opium coming in my country? She started a war. And she said, oh, you're going to take that opium. So they forced it on the people. And China had a very dark period because of this whole situation. So that's the history of that. We're going to look at a couple minutes of this video.
Silver is essentially a currency, and that meant that they weren't really traders so much as wholesalers.
Initially, they tried ginseng. That was good for a season or two. Then efforts were made to bring furs from the Pacific Northwest. That lasted a few more seasons, but what they found over time was that silver was the magic ingredient.
More than ever before, at the beginning of the 19th century, Western merchants desperately need a product to sell to China instead of silver. They do find a product that they are confident will take hold. Like tea, it's plant-based, but what Western merchants are preparing to flood the Chinese market with is a powerfully addictive and illegal drug: opium. It's a shocking decision then, and now, and one that alters the history of the world.
The opium trade has a profound impact on the Chinese economy, on the Chinese government, on Chinese society, and Chinese individuals. It's a winner for foreign traders. It has a devastating impact on Qing China.
So they were doing trade with this silver. Originally it was silverware, right? Originally they were going back and forth with this silverware. They were giving, raw silver, and the Chinese were turning it into crafts. The Chinese were making, silverware and pots and vases, whatever, right? It started originally where the Chinese were trading pottery and hoarding this silver. And then the English decided, hey, look, this is getting out of control. We need to get this silver. We need to get some of this silver back, right? And then they weren't able to trade and get enough silver. They weren't able to get a substantial amount, or what they deemed substantial amounts of silver back, and China was getting too wealthy. So whenever countries get wealthy that are not part of these European nations, this is what they do. They take by force, right? So it started out as a nice little trade. Yeah, we're gonna give you some of the opes, right? But it very quickly devolved into, oh, you're gonna take this opes, right? Because this is what we're producing, and we're gonna basically force it on you in order to enrich ourselves.
It increases dramatically. In 1767, 1,000 chests of opium are imported from India. By 1838, it's 40,000.
You might find officials, the highest officials of court, who took a bit of opium to basically relax. You would find middle-class scholars whirling.
Where do you think they were getting this stuff from opium? This stuff, or I should say, from India. These were coming from fields that were in India, so they had their hand in India. They're getting the raw product. It was a complete mess. So this is now, we fast forward like 30,000 years, if you want to call it that, or again, if you're biblical, you could say 5,000 years. We fast forward now. Now these people are visibly Caucasian. These are white people now, coming out of Europe, and this is how they behave: intimidation, extortion, violence, theft. This is historically documented. But again, Americans, they're like, this is how Americans go to school, right? They shut their ears, they shut their eyes.
Away their time by smoking opium pipes, perhaps in a dedicated opium parlor, or indeed men working in backbreaking labor who would take opium to try and ease the pain in their muscles.
The principal players in this illegal trade are the British, who are cultivating huge amounts of opium in Bengal in India.
Look at that. Each one of those is a ball. I'm imagining what? Probably 100 pounds, right? Each. Right? So this is a massive drug trade.
The jewel in the crown of their growing empire. At last, Britain has a product other than silver that the Chinese crave. But this is not good for China's vital silver reserves.
By the mid-19th century, silver was being drained from China to pay for this incoming opium, and the British were doing very well out of it.
Two ambitious Scotsmen make a killing from selling opium. Their names, still well known for the company they begin in 1832, that grows to become a massive multinational with an annual turnover in excess of $40 billion. William Jardine and James Matheson, who proceed to have a massive impact on this.
So these two men, they were working on behalf of, well, we'll say allegedly working on behalf of the government, the English royals, right? Because they didn't claim them. Because when things got sticky and really got dirty, right? They decided, oh, they're gonna cut ties. We don't know what these guys are doing. They're solo actors. They're acting on their own behalf. They're not acting on behalf of the crown. That's what they say. So I mean, look, I don't know, right? Were they being deceptive? You be the judge. So these two guys were the main players in this trade.
Illegal trade in China.
They are influential because of their systematic innovation. So whereas other traders,
I like how he says innovation and he gives that smile, right? He knows he's like almost shamed to say it. You know how they were, the innovation he's referring to is basically the exploitation of China.
are content to sell in the Pearl River estuary out of sight of Qing officials. Jardines commissioned ships to be built which will sell the drug along the coast. They commission new clipper ships, fast sailing vessels which will bring the opium as quickly as possible to the China coast.
Jardine and Matheson buy opium in British-controlled Bengal and moor their ships off the Chinese coast. The opium is offloaded and delivered by Chinese middlemen to Chinese customers.
What's most important about Jardine and Matheson is the fact that they do not consider themselves to be smugglers. They're not smugglers. They're gentlemen. They're traders. They are licensed traders. The Chinese who come to buy the opium.
Where do we see this today in America, right? If you see acts of violence, when Caucasians commit acts of violence, it's self-defense. But when a dark-skinned person or an Arab in America or some Indian or whoever commits an act of violence, whether it be self-defense or not, let's say it is self-defense, they're not painted in the same way. So you see these people, what he just said, these people are considered gentlemen, they're noblemen. They're not smugglers. No. These are businessmen.
From their ships in discreet anchorages off the coast of Fujian province, they are smugglers.
But their business invites considerable disdain back in Britain. William Jardine is described by Benjamin Disraeli, the British Prime Minister, as a dreadful man, a Scotchman, richer than Croesus, one MacDruggy, fresh from Canton, with $1 million of opium in each pocket. But in the minds of Jardine and Matheson, their company is merely supplying a commodity the Chinese crave.
So now you need to come to the conclusion. Do you really believe them? How the government was painting them? You do think that they didn't have a hand in this? Right? So they distanced themselves. They said, "Oh, we don't know what these guys are doing. You know, they're bad actors. We don't claim these dudes," right? But it's up to you if you truly believe that.
And it's a trade that is eyed enviously from the other side of the Atlantic by the Americans. Particularly the China trader, Thomas Sandasset Perkins, one of the most respectable names in Boston society, who resents being frozen out of the lucrative opium trade by the British.
See, so the Americans were cut out of this deal. Not cut out because they were never part of it. But the Americans were envious, right? They're looking across the waters like, yo, how is it these dudes are exploiting China like this? Yo, how come we can't get a piece? We want a piece. Right? This is from day one. This was, rather than, building their own culture, building their own economy, right? This is all, these empires have always been built on taking from others, extortion, right? Deception, right? Violence. That's why you see today, right? The United States has such a strong military force. Why do you think that is? They don't invest that type of money into industry. No. Pas besoin. You don't need that. Why would you need that when let those people develop their industry. When they get stuff rolling, we'll just go take it. It's a lot easier. Right? If you're living on a farm, two farms next to each other. You got one dude, he's planting his crops, he's digging the rows, he's putting the seeds, he's watering every single day. He grows this massive crop, right? Great, huge farm. And then you have another guy next door who decides he's not going to grow none. He's not going to plant one seed. He's not going to buy any farm equipment. He's just going to sit and wait and wait and wait. And the day that farmer is harvesting, he's just going to go take the harvest. Take the harvest. There's even a saying, I think it's an American saying even. How does it go? It says like, it's like, my neighbor has 10 cows, 40 horses, a large farm, and 5 pounds of gold, right? I have none of these things, but I have a gun. So now I have 10 horses, 5 pounds of gold. You get it? Like, you don't need all that stuff as long as you have weaponry. That's the mindset.
That fact had always bothered Thomas Perkins, who enjoyed a healthy rivalry with his British competitors. If Thomas Perkins could exchange opium for tea, he knew he could become a much, much richer trader than if he were exchanging silver for tea.
The Americans joined this illegal trade when they sourced their own opium through Turkey. The number of opium chests now being smuggled into China grows at an astonishing rate.
There was, of course, a growing social crisis. The use of opium was being noticed by the officials of the Qing dynasty, who were increasingly worried about what they saw as the harmful effects of smoking or chewing opium on large proportions of society.
By the 1830s, the number of opium addicts is counted in millions.
So now everybody's hooked on opium, right? So this is how it started. So originally, England had the silver. Lord knows where they got it from, right? We won't go into that in this video. But they had the silver. China had the tea and the pottery. England was trading that silver for the tea and the pottery. China got extremely wealthy. And then England started doing other deals with them, right? To get some of that silver back. And that's where they developed this whole opium trade, because they realized we could sell this in mass volume and extract the silver that we just gave to them. You see? So again, this is the deception, right? And one would say, you know, a capitalist may say, hey, this is good capitalism here. But this is not looking after your fellow man. This is like trying to take food off the plate of someone else so that you can gorge yourself. That's what this is. You may agree with that, you may not, but that's what this is. You can't paint it a different way than that.
The drug is taking a terrible toll on the health of the nation. In Beijing, Emperor Daoguang must confront a huge dilemma. He must stem his people's growing addiction to opium and stop precious silver flowing out of his empire. In March 1839, he reaches a decision. He dispatches his most incorruptible official to Canton, Commissioner Ling Xiaoshu.
Commissioner Lin is appointed to crack down on the illegal opium trade. He moves fairly swiftly, and he moves fairly ruthlessly.
First of all, he would descend on the scene and demand that all opium addicts and all opium dealers immediately surrender their stores of the drug. That was number one. Number two, he was lenient. As long as you complied with his wishes and gave up your opium, he would not penalize you at all. He might even help you get some assistance. However, if you did not surrender your opium, he would put you to death.
See, so homeboy cracking down. He's cracking down now. He's like, yo, this is ridiculous. I'm getting this stuff out of my country, one way or another. You know? So this is a technique that's been used in all different nations, all different empires for thousands of years. You got to rule sometimes by the sword. When people ain't trying to do the right thing, ain't trying to lock in, sometimes you got to tell them, hey, look, either do it, get on board, or we're going to start offing people, because this is for the future of our country.
Commissioner Lin arrests over 1,500 Chinese dealers and confiscates 70,000 opium pipes. He then demands that the British surrender their chests of opium. When they refuse, he blocks the Pearl River and confines all foreign merchants to their residences.
He holds them under house arrest. Their servants are taken away from them. Some of them have to learn to cook. This is a great shock.
Ling Xiaoshu,
the horror that these people had to learn to cook, these aristocrats.
His focus is not confined to foreign merchants. He holds Canton's chief merchant to account for the rampant opium smuggling.
Ho Kwa, in particular, being the chief hong merchant for a long time, was under heavier scrutiny by the Qing court. So there are various rounds of assessment, financially and otherwise, that cost Ho Kwa and his family dearly.
Ho Kwa lives under threat of beheading during this tense standoff. At the same time, one of his American business partners in Canton, Robert Bennett Forbes, reflects candidly on the lucrative nature and the morality of the opium trade in a letter to his wife.
The import of opium has gradually increased under the connaissance of the local authorities until the quantity has amounted to 50,000 chests worth nearly $15 million. It has generally sold readily for cash down. $15 million is a great deal of money, and all at once the government determined to cut off this trade, which has been demoralizing the minds and destroying the bodies and draining the country of money.
You see, people, their society was about to collapse in China. They went from a highly disciplined people, right? Highly inventive, one of the world leaders to very quickly devolving into addiction.
There has been no moral feeling of indignation connected with the business. I would mention that I made my first fortune by the same.
To bring this impasse to an end and return to business, the British surrender their opium to Ling Se-shu. In March 1839, he orders their 20,000 chests of opium to be publicly destroyed.
这就是林则徐硝烟池旧址。那么林则徐当年并不想在府门消化鸦片，他当时把收缴来的鸦片啊，237万多斤鸦片，他想运到北京去，但是北京路途太遥远了，2万多箱鸦片，那么怕路上发生偷漏。那么道光皇帝呢，就说你不要运来了，你直接在府门啊把它消化鸦片算了。然后消化鸦片的时候呢，你让当地的老百姓啊，还有在广州做生意的一些外国人啊，也请过来看。
It is broken down from these cannonball-sized balls of compacted opium paste mixed with.
So you see, this is what took place, and this led to a war. Queen Victoria forced them to take it, and they still have the treaty that was signed on these grounds, right? So this is very clear history of this type of behavior. Right? The proof is in the pudding. I don't know what more to tell you. So I think I'm gonna end that there. Hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna call it there. So I thank you guys for watching, and understand, once again, I don't believe that these people are beyond how do you say, beyond the capacity to change, right? You know, everyone has the capacity to change. You know, if you approach these people with love, right? Some people you got to keep at a distance, right? I'm sure. You may have some examples in your life, right? But this is, you know, this is clearly documented throughout history. So just something to keep in mind when we talk about deception, theft, violence. This is clearly documented throughout history. But again, they're not irredeemable
certainly not the very.
people. A lot of them are good people, right? A lot of people know this history as well. Educated people, they know this history and they do want to do better. So it's not to paint all people. I'm not going to jump on that train because I'm not that type of person. You know, but it's really to bring this message that when you see certain individuals, especially this alt-right wing and these Christian nationalists that are trying to promote this idea that dark-skinned people or black people or whomever that is not European, is not white, is not Christian, is not nationalist, that those are the people to be afraid of, who have a history of violence, who have a history of deception, who have a history of theft. This is straight projection. And in many cases, it's just straight ignorance and undereducation. Right? So, again, I bid you guys adieu. If you want to check out these channels, you can check out Life in Paleolithic Europe, 35,000 years ago, allegedly. And this is at Stefan Milo's channel. Shout out to him. And then we have How the Opium Trade Destroyed China's Greatest Empire. That's on Absolute History channel. So 2 really great videos with some insight. And I hope that, I encourage African Americans and Africans alike, Caribbeans, whomever, to do some research and look into these ancient societies. Very interesting stuff. And you will be able to accurately gauge and clock people who behave like this. And you'll understand why they do what they do and how to avoid these types of people. All right, so we're gonna call it a stream. Thanks for watching. Have yourselves a good one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share the stream.